What's going on, guys? Kpine here and welcome back. And in this video I'll be featuring a fun anti-meta team in the GreatLeague remix with Shadow EXCADRILL. So many teams are disrespecting it with their Steel type plus Flyer or Carbink plus Flyer cores, but surely they're right to. Who in their right mind would run a Shadow EXCADRILL? Well, this thing put in work. It's so extremely glassy that even a resisted move doesn't look like it's resisted, but let me tell you, it hits like an absolute truck. I'm running it on the safe swap just because a lot of teams don't tend to have a good answer for it, and even if they do have a fighting type like Annihilape or Poliwrath, Shadow EXCA can still threaten a shield from them. That's how much a Shadow Drill Run does. For the rest of the team, I'm running the Core Breaker, Unova Stunfisk on the lead, and Shadow Pidgeot in the back. And I don't know what to say, I actually ended up gaining 150 ELO with the team over 2 days, which brought me back into Legend ELO. Where the third day, I did go 3-2 and have 4 2-3s, so not as great, but still not bad. So in this video, I'll be showcasing selected battles across those sets. And with that, let's get right into the battles. Alright, into the first battle, we lead Stunfisk into Carbink. Fantastic lead for us. My opponent's going to swap into a Shadow Sableye. I'm going to meet it with a Pidgeot, and here, my opponent does have Power Gems since they are the Shadow, but this will not one-shot my Pidgeot. I will just be able to barely survive and get off the Brave Bird, which they don't. They go for the Foul Play bait, and that works out perfectly for me. But if they did end up going for that Power Gem, I would have just barely survived to get off my Brave Bird, forcing that shield advantage or switch advantage. Which again, I'm perfectly fine with either because I do have my EXCADRILL or the Stunfisk to absolutely demolish that Carbink, so it doesn't matter where it lands. But since they baited with the Foul Play, I can now force both shields from my opponent, and guess what this does? This sets up EXCADRILL for a perfect farm down. I will have to give up one of my shields here for this Foul Play, but look at that. I'm basically already at half HP just from those Shadow Claws. It does so much damage. And here my opponent, they bring in a Giratina, and this game is over. First drill run, look how much damage that does. Brings the Giratina into the red. Second drill run, will take it out. And guess what, Carbink? You're gonna have a really bad day. Third drill run is reached. This will do massive damage to the extremely bulky Carbink. Now we can just swap into our Ufisk to reach a Mud Bomb. My opponent realizes it's over, so they concede the match. GG's. Next battle, we lead Stunfisk into Sableye. Now I'm just going to stay in this matchup and play the Zero Shield scenario. I know I do outpace the 2 moves before they reach 2 foul plays, so I will be able to put them into a manageable range later on in the match. So I do land that first Mud Bomb. My opponent builds up to the potential return, but only goes for the Foul Play. So now I'm going to overfarm on energy and fire off this Mud Bomb right before they reach their next Foul Play. Mud Bomb does land, and my opponent's going to be firing off their next Foul Play right before I reach my next Mud Bomb. I'm just going to let this go and farm down with Pidgeot to potentially Brave Bird and dip something, but they hard swap in a Nidoqueen. And this Nidoqueen is about to have a really bad day when I show it my Shadow EXCADRILL. I swap into my EXCADRILL to catch the Poison Fang because they love to throw those right away. And from here, I can just load up on energy. Look at those Mud Shots. I don't think I've ever seen Mud Shots do that much damage before. Load up on energy, fire off this Drill Run on the CMP Tide to their next Poison Fang. That will take out the Nidoqueen. Fire off the Drill Run against the Sableye. That would have been CMP tie if they threw right away, which is why I threw there, but they didn't. They decided to go for the extra, which is perfectly fine. And they have a Toxapex in back, so EXCA is primed to sweep their team, and the opponent concedes the match. GG's. Next battle, we lead Ufisk into Annihilape. Now in this matchup, kind of dictates based off of what the Annihilape throws. Did they go for a Shadow Ball? Then I would go for 2 discharges since they can farm down afterwards and discharge does the most damage. But if they go for Night Slash, this allows you to go for Mud Bombs instead, just in case your opponent decides to use shields in this matchup. So we do outpace to the second Mud Bomb before they reach their second Night Slash, which does get a shield from them. If they let it go, that Mud Bomb go, that's fine. You can let their next Night Slash go as well, and then get farm on something else like the Pidgeot. But here, they give up a shield, so I decide to give up a shield, knowing I will outpace this next Mud Bomb too, which will take out the Annihilape after one more Mud Bomb and give me switch advantage. But they bring in a Dugong. I'm not going to make it to a discharge, so I settle for a Mud Bomb's worth of chip damage. But this Mud Bomb's worth of chip damage is huge, because you may think the Dugong's pretty healthy, but not for EXCADRILL. This is one rock slide range to take out the Dugong. They go for the drill run. I'm over farming. I'm gonna go for this rock slide right here, and they may think, hey, Dugong's pretty glassy, I can survive this rock slide. No, you cannot. Down goes the Dugong, and they have a Carbink in the back, so I could just farm up to the back-to-back drill runs. First one will get the shield, second one will land, and then I can swap into my Shadow Pidgeot to close out this game. Drill run does massive damage, bringing the Carbink into the red. That is a Carbink, folks. That does so much. Rock Slide lands, but we're able to hang on, just barely make it to the Brave Bird, and this will be enough to finish off that Carbink. GG's to my opponent. Shadow EXCADRILL is just crazy damage-wise, man. It just does so much. Next battle. Stunfisk into Serperior. Terrible lead. We're going to swap into our Excadrill right away, and we're going to throw our Rock Slide right away. It takes one turn to switch, so by throwing our move before they throw their move, it allows us to negate that one turn of switch to make us back on an even playing ground. My opponent overfarms. I go for the Rock Slide right away, going, oh, they let me get to another move. Great. I'm going to win CMP tie, but they make a very smart play and catch onto a Quagsire. Interestingly enough, if this Quagsire is on Aqua Tail, they allowed me to get to a drill run to force a shield just so they could farm down all the way. Find that a little bit of an interesting play if that's the case, but as you'll see here, they're on a Mud Bomb. So what I do instead, I catch in return. This is a double resisted Mud Bomb to Pidgeot. One good catch deserves another. Now we're going to over farm on energy. My opponent builds up to a potential Stone Edge, so I will give up a shield right here to respect the Stone Edge, but they give up but they make a fantastic bait on the Mud Bomb. What that allows my opponent to do is reach another Stone Edge before I farm them down. So I'm forced to fire off that Aerial Ace on the CMP tie there, and in the back they have a Shadow Feraligatr. I decide to go for an Aerial Ace bait, a little risky, but it does pay off as they give up their final shield. And this is still going to be a very risky endgame despite getting that bait correctly. That Serperior swapped out with a ton of energy, and they're going to start using it. They go for a Frenzy Plant right here, so I'm assuming that they're on Leaf Storm and Frenzy Plant, which means I can throw one more Wing Attack, catch the second Frenzy Plant on my Ufisk, overfarm on energy, play to the CMP tie, of which we leave with an Aerial Ace and a Brave Bird stored. Aerial Ace takes out the Serperior, and we do indeed have that Brave Bird to one-shot the Feraligatr. Down it goes, and that is a good game. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, we lead Stunfisk into Shadow Magnezone. Fantastic matchup for the Stunfisk. They swap into a Caress, and we have the Shadow EXCADRILL to meet it. And you may think that this is a fantastic matchup for this Shadow EXCADRILL, and that's what I thought too. But I was wrong. Look how much that neutral Grass Knot does. And those are resisted Psycho Cuts. But after tanking that neutral Grass Knot, we're going to be getting Psycho Cut down by a Cresselia. So based off of that, I'm going to play for shield advantage here and hope it works out in my favor. Opponent does go for that Grass Knot, and I'm going to be firing off the drill run in return. If my opponent does shield this, they will be able to get switched. Like I said, they'll be able to Psycho Cut down. So instead, I'm going to swap to my Stunfisk, and here I make a little bit of a misplay. I should have gone for the Discharge. As you'll see, the Mud Bomb's just not enough to KO, but I think Discharge might have been able to do it there. So I'm forced to give up a shield to this Grass Knot instead. And as you'll see, they have a Gligar in the back. So if I held onto my shield, and then I feel like I would have been went for the Discharge there and didn't have to give up my final shield. I feel like I definitely would have been in a much better position here, as Shadow Brave Bird to the Shadow Magnezone, it's still a Shadow Brave Bird. It hits really, really hard. Plus Shadow Magnezone is very glassy. But here, I'm staying in it. I'm trying to play it out, see what I can do. But realistically, after that, Cresselia was able to flip switch against the Excadrill by Psycho cutting it down. Kind of out of luck, and this matchup went away from me because I no longer had alignment. So you'll see once the Pidgeot goes down, I do concede the match. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, we lead Stunfisk into Ferrothorn. Bad lead for us, so we are going to save swap into our Excadrill, and we're going to throw this Drill Run right away. Due to the 1 turn it takes to switch, throwing that Drill Run right away would be on good timing, but my opponent ends up swapping out into their Feraligatr, and that is not a good answer to Excadrill up energy, because after a couple mud shots, Drill Run does one-shot it. So I could flip switch here if I wanted to, but I decide not to, since they play to a CMP tie and I get both shields from my opponent. This is putting Pidgeot up into a prime position to sweep this game as long as they don't have Carbink in the back. So I'm going to bring in my Ufisk here. I can tank this Hydro Cannon, but I decided to preserve a little bit of HP on the Ufisk. Now they swap out, save their Gator for later, and bring back in the Ferrothorn, of which we swap right away and we catch the Power Whip. Now we're going to overfarm a ton of energy. I tried to go for the CMP tie there, but my opponent outpaced by just a single turn. So a little unfortunate. So instead, we're just going to load up to 100 energy, go for the Brave Bird here, which will absolutely destroy that Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn goes down and they have a Mandibuzz in the back. So at this point, preserving that HP on my Ufisk seemed to be the correct play, as once we land that Brave Bird, Ufisk with all this stored energy will be able to close out the match. Opponent, what they go for the Aerial Ace there, it doesn't matter whether they went for the Aerial Ace or Dark Pulse, because we are able to double up on the discharges, where the first one does take out the Gator and the second one will take out the Mandibuzz as well. As you'll see, discharge comes through and down goes the bird. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, we lead Stunfisk into Carbink. Another Carbink lead. This is fantastic for us. See what my opponent wants to do. They swap into a Shadow Gator, and we're going to throw this right away because it takes 1 turn to switch, as I said earlier. So we're going to throw right away to take advantage of that, and my opponent's always going to be that 1 turn behind. If they shielded that discharge, I would have just stayed in with the Stunfisk, gotten switch advantage, and then put my Excadrill on the Carbink later in the game. But since they let the discharge go, I can swap to my Excadrill, give up 1 shield, but leave with a ton of energy. And look at this, the opponent brings back in the Carbink. This is an atrocious matchup for the Carbink. So them bringing it in here shows that they are absolutely core broken by the Excadrill. Both Drill Runs land, take it out. They have a Ferrothorn in the back. And you know what? I was expecting more of like a flyer, like a Mantine there or a Mandibuzz, not necessarily an Excadrill. But it also does make sense with how much of an energy lead I had, that Drill Runs do 2-shot a Ferrothorn as well, just the same as they do to a Carbink. So we will give up that Power Whip, get to another Drill Run, force their final shield from them. We will swap to try and catch the Thunder, but my opponent holds on to their to try and catch the Power Whip. My opponent holds on to the energy, and they're running Flash Cannon. Fortunately, they're running Flash Cannon instead of Thunder, but even if they were running Thunder, Shadow Pidgeot can tank a Thunder and still get to a Brave Bird. So either way, we had that matchup locked in, as Shadow Excadrill putting on an absolute clinic again. Next match, Ufisk into Cofagrigus. So we're just going to stay in this matchup, play out the zeros as well. If it comes to a point in the matchup where the Ufisk goes down and it's in a farm down range with the Stunfisk, then I'll let that happen. Then I'll come to this Excadrill to farm down, but my opponent swaps into a Shadow Alolan Ninetales. At this point, I'm already guessing it's Double Charm. But the crazy part about Shadow Excadrill, you're a Steel type, but with how glassy you are, you still get charmed down in the 2 shield scenarios. But the best part about it, at least, is I will be able to force both of these shields from my opponent. And with both of those shields gone, nothing is saving them from a Shadow Brave Bird from the Pidgeot. So at this point, I have all this energy on my Ufisk. I'm going to bring it in, fire off this first Mud Bomb. I will have to fire off a second one here to take out the Ninetales, which I do. So down goes the Ninetales, and now it's going to all be up to what they have in the back. It's most likely that second Charmer, of which it is in a Gardevoir, and Pidgeot. Look at its HP going down. We get to the Brave Bird, we fire off the Brave Bird. They make a fantastic catch onto the Cofagrigus, so we're going to undercharge it, and we just so happen to get the perfect undercharge to leave with a move against the Gardevoir to take it out with this Aerial Ace as well. As down goes the Shadow Gardevoir, and that's a good game. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, we lead Ufisk into Guzzlord. Play out the zeros like normal. Try and set up a potential farm down for the Exca. So we're going to load up on energy. We could fire off the Mud Bomb after 7 Mud Shots there, or after 10 Mud Shots. Either one doesn't matter. But since my opponent threw first, we're now going to throw one more Mud Shot, go for the Mud Bomb, throw overfarm. Since they went for a Crunch there, I could overfarm a little bit. If they went for a Dragon Claw, I would have just thrown one more Mud Shot than the Mud Bomb so I could outpace. And here my opponent gets a little bit greedy. They try and go for the farm down, but Ufisk, just so spammy, reaches a third Mud Bomb. And instead, you know, maybe they wanted me to take them out so they could get energy on their Feraligatr, which is a very nice play, but they don't even build up to an Ice Beam here. So I don't need to respect it with a shield, as I know I can tank it and I won't be able to get Shadow Claw down. So here we are firing off another Aerial Ace right before they reach the next Hydro Cannon, excuse me. And this isn't quite in comfortable Mud Shot downrange yet, so I do give up one of my shields there, just so I can get more wing attack damage. And at this point, this is all going to come down to whatever they have in the back. If it's something that Exca can do well against, we're in a good spot. Even if it's neutral, we're in a good spot because the Mud Shots do add up, but it's a Jellicent. If it's something as bulky as a Jellicent, we're not in good shape here, because you're going to see this Drill Run does so much damage, but is not enough to one-shot them. And yeah, that's a bulky Jellicent, bringing it all the way down into the red. I was hoping it was more of a neutral matchup there, where the Drill Run would absolutely demolish it, but the double water backline was a little too much for us to overcome, and my opponent takes that one. GG's. Next battle, Steelix Lead. Fantastic lead for the Unova Stunfisk, and they're staying in. So Ufisk doing what it does best in this cup, serving as a core breaker. If they're staying in with the Ufisk, then I have to read that they have a flyer behind it, right? There's no way they're going to stay in with the Steelix here if they don't have a flyer behind it. Plus, they need an answer to fighting types, which, again, is that flyer. So we're making sure to throw in good timing in this matchup. We do get a shield from our opponent, which is very surprising. Normally, if you're core broken, you just let your lead Pokemon go down and save your shields for your back mons to potentially try and sweep. But they give up a shield there, and they just go for another Psychic Fangs. So not only are we going to get switch advantage, but we're going to get shield advantage too. So that is very fortunate for us. They bring in a Shadow Alolan Ninetales. We're able to survive both charms to get another Mud Bomb's worth of chip damage off. That's pretty fortunate for us. So we can bring in the EXCADRILL to shut down that Ninetales. Well, not quite shut down because those charms still do chunk. But they swap out into a Mantine. That is a Rock Slide, doing that much energy damage to a Mantine. And my opponent concedes. GG's. Just crazy how much damage that thing outputs. It really is. And I got a little bit of a bonus battle here for you guys as I save swap into the Exca. And sir, that is not an answer to a Shadow EXCADRILL. You're going to have to shield this, otherwise the Gator's going to get one shot by the Exca, and my opponent decides they do not want to play anymore. And that's why you do not disrespect the power of Shadow EXCADRILL. GG's. Now, is this a team that I can recommend for climbing? Not completely. I did manage to have some success with the team, but Shadow EXCADRILL is a Pokemon that requires heavy energy management. So if you're not quite too comfortable with your energy management, I would recommend trying out a different team. But if you feel like your energy management is pretty good, then hey, why not give this team a shot? Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.